Welcome back to Avengers right here at Comicstorian, your home for audio drama versions of your favorite comic books, video games, and movies. Today we're going to be continuing the storyline of the Avengers. Now, the last story that we covered here had a new Avengers team forming up. Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Captain Marvel, She-Hulk, Ghost Rider, just to name a couple of the individuals who have been involved. But from the first adventure they had where they had to come together, we've had a few others that I haven't covered. And in that time, we've also had Blade join the team. Today, we're going to be covering issues 14 and 15, in which Blade's purpose is finally going to be revealed. Now, this one takes place after the War of the Realms. So if you want to know what the Avengers were doing during the War of the Realms, go check out that episode. But otherwise, let's go ahead and start Avengers 14 and 15. The Vampire Civil War.
The night is ablaze in Romania, with one of its oldest castles slowly burning to the ground. The attack is sudden and brutally efficient, while swarms of bats rain napalm along the outside. Rats fitted with sunburst grenades scurry through the castle's corridors, reducing its inhabitants into ash. The sentries outside the main area have been standing guard since the 15th century. They have been fighting off armies of Turks, Knights Templar, and generations of Van Helsing. But they've never faced anything like the rotary cannon currently firing 2,000 wooden stakes a minute into their undead hearts. The most fearsome castle ever raised is engulfed in flames. But before the night is over, it will be reduced to a smoldering rubble. However, that is not enough to calm the fury of the squad of heavily armed invaders who now find themselves standing over an empty coffin with one question on their minds. Where is he? Where is the coward king hiding? Where is Dracula? The Shadow Colonel and his legion of unliving have just slaughtered the most devoted vampire disciples of the Lord of the Damned. The legion of unliving are vampires themselves, making this a war between vampires. There is someone else who knows a thing or two about that sort of conflict, and his name is Blade, who, at this very moment, finds himself fighting off vampires alongside Captain Marvel on the Roxxon Air Flight 959 after it was hijacked by vampires. As the bloodsuckers swarm Blade, they all shout that there's no safe place for them anymore. The castle has fallen, and Dracula's nowhere to be found. After kicking the group back, Blade takes out his silver-bladed nunchucks, telling them, "Don't worry your pretty vamp heads about what's coming, because whatever the hell it is, you ain't gonna live that long." But while Blade hack and slashes his way through the vampires, Iron Man and Black Panther are faced with a similar problem over at the Great Mount. Hundreds of vampires try to sneak into Wakanda seeking refuge, but it's just not there. Captain America and Thor are handling things in Transylvania, while She-Hulk and Ghost Rider take care of Monster Metropolis. As Robbie sends another vampire to hell through his trunk, he thinks to himself, "This is kinda crazy. Almost makes me think that I actually belong on this team." But just then a demon child tells him, "You don't. You're not an Avenger. You're vengeance itself, and you are the fires of hell in a human form. Here in Monster Metropolis, we know our own kind when we see them, and you are a monster. You're the biggest hell-damned monster there ever was, or ever will be." Robbie tells the child no. "I am not a monster. I can save the world." Just then, She-Hulk grabs Robbie, throwing him into his car, telling him, "No time for talking to self. Time for other plan." Robbie tries to tell her to wait, that there's a child standing over. But before he could finish, She-Hulk slams the door shut and throws the Hell Charger, telling him, "Just wait, we practice. Hulk plus Rider plus Hellcar equal Fireball Special." However, as Robbie's car is thrown through the hordes of vampires back in Transylvania, Cap and Thor suddenly notice all of the vampires are fleeing. Thor lands, telling them, "The beast fled in terror before the wrath of the mighty Thor." And Cap tells him, "I'm not so sure about that." When suddenly a voice follows them, telling him, "That is correct. It would be because of me. I am the Shadow Colonel, and this undead dog here is named Sarge. The world is in chaos, and you may think that this is my fault, but we can settle all of our problems right here, right now, without each of us having to see each other ever again. All the Avengers have to do is answer one simple question. Where do I find Dracula?" Later, at the Avengers Mountain, Shadow Colonel sits in the interrogation room while Captain Marvel asks if they're going to go with the good cop, bad cop routine. Cap tells her no, he's got someone a bit more suited for this particular job. Inside the room, Blade walks through the door and Shadow Colonel says, at last I get to meet the world's greatest vampire hunter. Did you come to say thank you or ask for my advice? Since my team and I just did in one night what you've accomplished in your entire life. Blade tells him that he killed a bunch of vampires. Congratulations. But you didn't get the big guy, and now you've turned the entire world into a war zone. Shadow Colonel then says, just tell me the truth. Just between fingers, do you really give a damn about the humans? And Blade tells him, I'm the one asking questions here. Well, Shadow Colonel laughs. Well, you do! That's so very sad. But I've heard the stories, how you were born to a dead woman and some fanger made a meal of your mother while you were still inside, coming out half boy, half vamp. A dampier, daywalker, cheap, watered-down copy. You don't hate vampires, right? No, there's someone else that you hate more, but you can't bring yourself to put them out of their stinking misery. And that person is yourself. You're not a man, you're not a vampire, and you sure aren't a damn Avenger. So just what the hell are you? Blade grabs Shadow Colonel, slamming him into the wall, telling him, if you keep talking like that, this Daywalker will be the last thing you ever see. But while that goes on, Robbie kicks his car, shouting, say something! We used to talk so much, but now nothing? How did the kid know about me? Is it true? Am I a monster? But when Robbie gets no answer, he sighs and sits on the ground. Soon the lights go out and Robbie asks, what's going on? Is there anyone out there? A voice does answer, but not one that Robbie has heard before. In the name of Mephisto, in the name of the Lord Marduk, the Morning Star. Robbie's skin bursts into flames and he shouts, asking, what's happening? This hurts a lot more than usual. Back in the interrogation room, Shadow Colonel headbutts Blade, asking, do you know who I am? I am the new Lord of the Vampires. Shadow Colonel effortlessly breaks his cuffs, telling Blade, and you and your friends can go to hell. And I know just how to send you there. Back over with Robbie, he falls to the ground burning, asking the car, what's going on? And the voice continues, in the name of Eli Morrow, and whatever other masters you may be serving above and below, in the name of vengeance I invoke you. Robbie screams as the Ghost Rider takes control, and Sarge then tells him, now get in and start the damn car. However, that is not the worst of it. Along the Russian-Ukrainian border, Vanguard and Darkstar notice someone coming their way. They rush the individual, but they stop in their tracks when they see exactly who it is. Dracula stops in the middle of the road, stating that he is a royal refugee fleeing the troubles of Romania, seeking political asylum in Russia. His name is Vlad Tepes, Prince of Wallachai, Count Dracula of Transylvania. Please, I have lost my ancestral home and I wish to know peace in the humble twilight of my life. Back at the Avengers Mountain, Shadow Colonel punches Blade, telling him, it's been fun, but I really have to be going now. Captain Marvel jets in, telling him, and you won't be going anywhere. But then she's suddenly thrown into the wall. Black Panther and Cap get ready to move in, but before Cap can act, Sarge jumps on him, telling Shadow Colonel, we have what we came for. Shadow Colonel then turns and fires an eye blast, blowing out part of the wall. And through the smoke, Ghost Rider drives in. Captain Marvel gets up asking Robbie what is he doing, and Shadow Colonel tells him, being a good boy and showing everyone what he really is. Captain Marvel pleads with him not to listen, but Ghost Rider opens up his mouth, releasing hellfire that knocks her away. A few moments later, Thor and Iron Man arrive and they ask, what is going on? What are we fighting? But before they could get an answer, Shadow Colonel and Sarge get in the Hell Charger, and Ghost Rider drives off into the night. The next morning, Black Panther looks over the damages as he scans the globe for any trace of hellfire. He also dispatched some of the agents of Wakanda to Los Angeles to look for Roberto's younger brother, in case the Rider should resurface there. Blade tells him that he won't. Shadow Colonel will want to turn his new toy loose, where he can do the most damage to the vampire leadership, which means if they want to locate their missing Ghost Rider, they need to find Dracula. Black Panther then says, well, on that front, at least we have some good news. Good, but alarming news. Later at Federal Penal Colony number 9 in Sla-Aleski, Russia, Dracula hangs in a device to keep him secure, telling Iron Man, there was a time when I would sink my fangs into you, but those days are no more. I've already told the Russians that I am no longer that Dracula. I have already lost everything except the last few fading wisps of my life. I wish to enjoy those in peace and solitude. Iron Man bursts out laughing, telling him, what are the Russians offering you? And Dracula says that in exchange for my wisdom, they have provided sanctuary. Iron Man then asks, what if the Avengers could offer you that? Help us end the vampire civil war and the Avengers will protect you. It'd be better than whatever Moscow is offering you. Dracula then asks, do you take me for a fool? You just welcomed the world's deadliest vampire hunter into your ranks. Iron Man thinks for a moment and says, well, you do bring up a good point. We did invite Blade to be an Avenger. Taking you wouldn't be a bad idea, though. Dracula then laughs, telling him, you wouldn't do that. You're about to be preoccupied. With loud clanging signs, the Crimson Dynamo fights off a prison riot, asking if anyone's got eyes on Dracula. Seconds later, Iron Man rushes in, telling him that Dracula is still nice and secure in his holding cell. And Crimson looks back, asking, what son of a... You are under arrest for breaking in. Iron Man stops, asking, do you really want me behind bars right now? How about we clean up this mess, then we talk about breaking laws. But meanwhile, over at Madripoor, a group of vampires are begging not to be killed. They're peaceful vampires who only feed on the wicked. Have mercy! And before them, a group of rats stands there with one tilting its head and squeaking. Seconds later, a massive explosion of sunburst grenades, and the rat bomber says the dining hold is clear. Lady Cromwell then reports that Snowsnake and Carpathian have been killing everything in sight while she's clearing a path towards the safe room. With having this many vampires in here, there must be something very important inside. Shadow Colonel walks past, telling the small boy thing on his shoulder that it's time to lock and load. This small trimming a man thing sure comes in handy for when you need a good supply of wooden stakes. Soon, the barrel of the minigun winds up and it begins to punch holes through the safe room. As the winding fades, Shadow Colonel tells Ghost Rider that they're weeding out the weakness of the vampire race. And this is where he comes in. We have to strike real fear into the suckheads and fangers of the world. This will be a way of proving it. Prove to everyone that you're the monster that everyone thinks you are. Get to burning, Ghost Rider. As all of the small vampire children huddle in the far edges of the room, the Ghost Rider looks for a moment and then opens his mouth. Hellfire pours out and it hits everyone except the children. Shadow Colonel tells him, have I not made myself clear? The children. We need to wipe out the entire pack of vampire children. Ghost Rider turns back. No! And Shadow Colonel walks forward, telling him, you've got some fight left in you. Zarthos Zakaracum Invictus. As soon as those words leave the Shadow Colonel's mouth, the Ghost Rider screams in pain as he grabs his head. And Shadow Colonel tells him, think on that while I finish up here. As the explosion goes off, a voice tells the Shadow Colonel to put his hands in the air. Shadow Colonel starts getting up, telling Ghost Rider, there has been a change in plans. Don't want to murder a bunch of vampire children? Fine. Mephistophilius of Vindicta. Ghost Rider howls as he gets back up, and the Shadow Colonel tells him, that's right. You can murder the Avengers instead.
And there you have it. The Ghost Rider has turned against the Avengers, being controlled by the new vampire prince. If you want to know what's going to happen next, then make sure you subscribe to the channel, as our current plan is to give you a set day of Avengers and Justice League videos in which they will rotate to get you caught up on both of their epic storylines. So you got Avengers this week, next week you'll get Justice League, and the week after that you're going to get more Avengers. So if you subscribe and hit that bell, you'll know what's going on with that whole entire rotation. And thank you so much for your support. Just watching our videos and watching us live over at twitch.tv/Comicstorian or twitch.tv/EligibleMonster, following us on Twitter, going to our Patreon. All of these things are incredible, and you guys are incredible. Thank you so much for your continued support.